Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Session Skate Sim. I play on the Xbox Series X. It's available on everything else. So the story is, you are a skater, you create your own skater, you were injured, you're back, and you have to learn how to skate all over again. So let's get into the audio, and the first thing I'm going to say is there is no voiceover work. And as for the music, I don't like any of the music in this game. I'm not a fan of reggae, and the rest of it's just like this ambient music. And so, honestly, like the 2 hours when all the music cut out, for whatever reason, was kind of a relief to me. Then you've got the sound effects, and the ones that are there are good. They go into some good detail with the sound of the wheels, when they're spinning in the air, the sound of your tail clicking, even the clicks of when your board is going over like those little gaps in the cement. But then there's just so many sound effects that aren't there. The sound of your board going over a grate, the sound of your board going over those little bumps on the sidewalk. But let's get past that and go into the gameplay mechanics and whatnot, and like I said, this is a sim. You go from skate spot to skate spot and you complete objectives there, and it's crap. It's horrible, it's bad. The objectives are ill-defined, and some of them you can find ways of doing them, like when you're doing the pop shove it and frontside shove it mission. You can do a quick shove it and it counts, but not for that objective. You do the trick, but it doesn't work in that objective. I ran into that same issue with the manual objective when you're first learning how to do manuals. I was supposed to do it in a very specific way, but according to them, I was doing it wrong, and they don't show you how you're doing it wrong. There's no explanation. But the number of times I landed it and it just wouldn't complete the objective is insane. I ran into that with the 360 shove and tray flip tutorial mission, which is also the one that I learned that the trick list, which gives you a little guide of how you're supposed to do it on the controller, is just complete crap and doesn't work. They'll show you that you need to move the stick like a quarter of a rotation, but in reality you need to do half a rotation. Or to do the tray flip and 360 shove, you need to do a full rotation, but they only show you half a rotation in the guide. So it just doesn't make sense, and you're sitting there doing what it's showing you on the trick list, and it's not working until you finally start experimenting and you're like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But even then, the number of times I actually landed the trick that they were saying I was supposed to, and they didn't count it because I didn't do it quite right, is just so insane. And going back to how the objectives and tricks are poorly done and poorly explained, on one of the missions, it may have been the same one as the tray flip and laser flip, you have to do an impossible, and during the little cutscene explanation of what you're supposed to be doing, they tell you how to do an impossible. But if you weren't paying attention then, you're screwed, because the impossible isn't listed on the trick list, or at least I didn't find it on the trick list, which doesn't make sense. But let's move on to the controls, which they're strangely mapped out, and once you get used to them, they can work. I did have to change the controls for my sake. I changed it so the right stick was my back foot at all times, and the left stick was my front stick at all times. Whereas normally, left stick is left foot, right stick is right foot, which, I don't know, I had issues with that. But that's actually the least of your concerns when it comes to this game, because the controls are garbage. They're unresponsive as hell. You can do the same thing on the controller 100 times, and maybe 20% of that you'll do the trick you're trying to do. It doesn't make sense. There's no reason for it. It's horrible. It's just absolute garbage. Let's get into the graphics and visuals, and this is supposed to be a realistic looking game, but man, the characters look like trash, just pure crap. The character creation selection is bad. When you actually get to go to the skate shop, the number of skateboards, the different designs, as well as for the grip tape, trucks, wheels, all of that, that's actually really impressive. And all the apparel, that's impressive. It's too bad everything else is just this real mixed bag. Asphalt, pavers, cement, that all looks good. There's a lot of design in anything stone, basically. It's really well detailed. But you're going around the city and you see subway bridges, the elevated subway bridges. They look like garbage. The security cameras dangling from them look like garbage. There were literally street grates that just looked like they were straight out of the PS1 era. It's honestly just, again, kind of mind-boggling how bad some of this looks. As for the animations, the tricks, the grinds, the way your character's positioning themselves and trying to balance, that all looks good. But then they do weird stuff like my character was goofy and he was carrying his board with his left hand and he would just warp onto it when I would try and get on. He wouldn't do the whole running and like putting the board down, stepping onto it kind of thing. He just, it doesn't make sense. Like they just half built this thing. So to get into the wrap up, I actually bought this game when it was early access, which was years ago, and this is supposed to be the real release. It's no longer in early access. This game is not ready for a real release. If the devs think this is anywhere near a finished title, if they think this is even 90%, then they need to quit the industry now. As you can probably tell, this game pissed me the fuck off continually. It was really infuriating. It got to the point where when I finally did do whatever the game felt I needed to, despite having landed the trick dozens of times, I started yelling fuck you at the screen because I was just so frustrated. So, as you could probably guess, I do not recommend this. I wish I could. I really wanted to. I will say this is better than Skater XL, but I hated playing this, honestly. Okay, so in the comments down below, why don't you tell me, do you skateboard? Who's your favorite skater? Rodney Mullen's God. And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. And if you like what I'm doing in general, share and subscribe. Have a good one.